Discover the incredible moment a humble receptionist exposed the hidden millionaire among us. Sarah Adams woke up just as the sun peeked through the curtains, casting a warm glow over her small kitchen. She took a deep breath, feeling the familiar tightening in her chest that came with the weight of responsibility. Each morning, she prepared pancakes and bacon for her father, a proud veteran whose creased face told stories of sacrificial love and hard-earned lessons. She savored that time with him, feeling their bond steady her heart in a world that felt increasingly divided. It was in those moments she remembered how important it was to stand strong in the face of growing economic despair in Maplewood. As she arrived at the family pharmacy, she was greeted by the familiar scent of antiseptic and the soft chatter of the locals. Sarah smiled, greeting each customer with warmth, her genuine kindness wrapped around them like a comforting quilt. A mother with weary eyes purchasing cough syrup for her sick child, an elderly man struggling to pay for his prescriptions. Each interaction tugged at her heart, reaffirming her commitment to care and compassion. But just when the community felt united in their hardships, whispers of the new resident, Mr. Thompson, disrupted the air. Tall and imposing, he rarely exchanged words, only shopping for high-end items that had many raising eyebrows. Their tight-knit town felt a wave of resentment bubble just below the surface, a collective judgment formed on his silence and perceived wealth. The economic downturn had forged a divide, and Sarah, with her kind heart, couldn't shake the feeling something was wrong. One afternoon, while sorting through deliveries, she caught a glimpse of Mr. Thompson, deep in conversation with the kind pharmacy owner. A curiosity sparked within her. Who was this man? As days passed, Sarah began to notice something extraordinary. Every time Mr. Thompson visited, he slipped her small envelopes filled with cash, quietly designating them for local families struggling with food and bills. He was no snob, he was a secret benefactor, fighting for the community's well-being from the fringes. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With this knowledge, Sarah felt a fire ignite within her. What if she could bridge the divide? She started having heartfelt conversations with neighbors, encouraging them to see Mr. Thompson as an ally. Each interaction filled her with hope until the day came when the townsfolk gathered at the community hall to confront their fears. As she stepped to the front, her pulse raced. All eyes were on her, anticipation crackling in the air. What if we partner with him? Sarah's voice trembled but rang clear. Instead of pushing him away, let us welcome him into our family. The crowd shifted, some nodding, while others were still stuck in their biases. Just then, a voice hissed from the back. He's just a rich outsider. What does he know about us? The room trembled with tension. Heart pounding, Sarah looked back at Mr. Thompson, vulnerability etched on his face. This was a defining moment. Would they open their hearts, or would ignorance prevail? The fate of Maplewood hung in the balance. The air in the community hall felt thick, almost suffocating. Sarah could sense the shifting tides, the weight of unspoken doubts swirling around her like a storm. She took a deep breath and steadied herself, recalling the countless families that were already benefiting from Mr. Thompson's generosity. Could she find the words to change their minds? Mr. Thompson has been helping our community in silence, she began, her voice growing stronger with each word. He is not just a wealthy man, he is someone who cares deeply about our struggles and he wants to help us. We need to see him for who he truly is, not just a caricature of wealth. The murmurs in the crowd softened, yet some remained defiant, arms crossed and brows furrowed. Why doesn't he make himself known then? Another voice called out, impatience tinged with anger. If he really cares, why keep it a secret? With urgency in her heart, Sarah replied, "Perhaps he's afraid of being judged, just like many of us. But think about it, wouldn't we rather have him in our corner, helping us than standing alone?" She scanned their faces, searching for any glimmer of understanding. Perhaps it was the desperation in her voice or perhaps the truth in her message. She saw a few nods, a flicker of hope amongst the uncertainty. As if sensing the emotional shift, Mr. Thompson stepped forward. Tall and imposing, yet undeniably vulnerable, he spoke for the first time, his voice low but filled with sincerity. "I never wanted to disrupt your community. I just wanted to help in my own way. To show kindness without expecting recognition." Gasps rippled through the crowd. "But what help can a stranger provide?" someone exclaimed, skepticism creeping back into the discussion. Mr. Thompson took a step closer, locking eyes with the person. "I've lost everything before. I understand the pain of struggle. I am here because I believe in Maplewood. You have strength I admire. I want to help you realize it." His words hung in the air, powerfully resonant. A mother in the front row silently wiped away tears. Others shifted, caught off guard by the overwhelming sincerity that emanated from Mr. Thompson. Maybe he wasn't just a wealthy man after all. Encouraged by the unfolding moment, Sarah called, "How about we start a community fund together? Imagine pooling our resources, sharing ideas, and creating job opportunities. We can do this together. With Mr. Thompson's support and our resolve." A discussion broke into shapes of hope, with voices rising above previous doubts as they imagined possibilities anew. Yet, the divisiveness still loomed. A voice from the back chimed in, shaping doubt into a more insidious form. "You really think he'll be in it for us? Rich people usually look out for themselves." With a surge of determination, Sarah spoke from her heart, "We can choose together to believe in each other rather than succumb to skepticism. That's how communities grow." But just as some began to rally, a flicker of fear flashed across Mr. Thompson's face, uncertainty creeping back into his posture. Did he truly believe they would accept him? Had he misjudged the town he sought to help? The room went quiet, the tension palpable. Would they take the leap and unite for mutual benefit, or would fear win? All eyes shifted back to Sarah and Mr. Thompson, poised to decide the way forward. As she glanced between them, a surge of conflicting thoughts ran through Sarah. The stakes felt higher than ever. What would happen next? Would fear or compassion light their way? The question hung heavy in the atmosphere. Sarah's heart raced. She felt the weight of their gazes, pressure like 1,000 tiny blades. And then, without thinking, she made a choice. "Let us hear from Mr. Thompson," she said, breaking the eerie silence. "He came here to speak with us, to share his truth. This is our chance." As if released from a spell, eyes turned to Mr. Thompson, his expression a blend of confusion and gratitude. He took a deep breath, as if summoning courage from within. "Thank you, Sarah," he began, his voice steadying. "I'll be honest. I've built this wall around myself out of fear. Fear of judgment. Fear of rejection. It's easier to be invisible than to face the world when you've known great loss." He paused, searching the crowd for understanding. "Since losing my family, I've learned what it means to be alone. I vowed that no one in my new home would have to feel that way. When I first arrived in Maplewood, I wanted to step in, to help. But every time I tried to reach out, I withdrew, thinking you would never want someone like me, a stranger, a ghost to be around for your troubles." In the hushed atmosphere, a ripple of connection flowed through listeners. Mr. Thompson's vulnerability seemed to crack the barriers of suspicion. "I'm not asking for your trust outright. I just want to help in any way I can," he continued. "And I'm ready to listen to learn how you envision a brighter future." At that moment, murmurs of empathy began to rise. A middle-aged man stood, his hands shaking slightly. "We've all been afraid, haven't we? Afraid to reach out, afraid to accept the help we need. Others nodded slowly, the tension easing as recognition spread across their faces. Sarah sensed a shift in the room. A chance, a glimmer. If we can open our hearts to each other, she said, her voice lifting with hope, we can build something special together. This isn't just about Mr. Thompson or his wealth, this is about us, coming together to make something meaningful. The crowd began to chatter, uncertainty dissolving into curiosity. What are we waiting for? Someone shouted. Let us start the community fund. The enthusiasm grew like wildfire, laughter and voices mingling in a symphony of possibilities. But then, from deep within the back of the hall, another voice emerged, tinged with hard truth. And what if it all goes wrong? What if we commit and it ends up being just another failing venture? A young man, brow furrowed and arms crossed, watched the excitement with clear skepticism. His words snuffed some of the cheer, hovering like a dark cloud. Sarah felt the moment hang in the air, tension returning. Doubt reared its head again, the shadow threatening to overshadow the light that had just ignited, swirling back in like an unwelcome guest. Are we willing to answer that fear? Sarah called out, spinning toward the crowd, her heart racing in determination. What if it leads us to something greater than ourselves? What if we find strength in each other, share our burdens and joys alike? The applause that followed felt like a heartbeat, half uneasy, but alive nonetheless. Mr. Thompson looked around, his face a mixture of hope and anxiety. He was stepping into the light, but would it be welcoming? Would they embrace the vulnerability he sought to share? As the applause surged, Sarah noticed those who once stood hardened by suspicion beginning to soften. But would they follow through, or would fear snuff out the flame of their newfound unity? She grasped the edge of the podium, her mind racing. And in that swirling moment, one final thought struck her. What if they failed? What if this unity crumbled beneath the weight of their fears? The stakes couldn't be higher. Let us decide together, she raised her voice again, uncertainty laced with resolve. Are we brave enough to try? The room held its breath, tension curling like smoke in the air. All eyes were on her. Would they take this bold step forward? Would they dare to want something more? The silence was deafening. Sarah could feel the anticipation reaching a boiling point, a tension that thrummed through the air like a taut string. Just when it seemed someone would finally speak, the young man in the back broke in again, his voice steady but laced with defiance. I still don't see how any of this is going to change anything. We've been through this before. The last time someone brought in big dreams, they left us holding the bag while they skedaddled back to their comfortable lives. His words hung in the air, a weight that pulled down on the room. Sarah's heart sank slightly. She understood the skepticism. Trust wasn't built overnight, and the scars of past disappointments could cut deep. Everyone's eyes darted between the young man, Mr. Thompson, and Sarah. Finally, a woman from the front stood up. Her voice was gentle yet strong, shaking just slightly as she spoke. We can't let the mistakes of the past dictate our present. What if this is different? What if we really do have a chance? Her appeal stirred something in the crowd, a flicker of emotion sparking from a shared desire for something more. Sarah felt the shift, like the first blush of dawn breaking through a heavy night. Mr. Thompson's gaze moved to the woman. I promise you this won't be just another empty promise. I want to invest not only my money but my heart into this community. If you'll let me in, I'll do everything in my power to help. The young man in the back shifted, his arms uncrossing just a little. Maybe, just maybe, he was starting to reconsider. It was the first sign of hope in a stagnant sea of doubt. Then let us not waste time, Sarah said, her excitement bubbling to the surface. Let us lay out our vision. What do we want for Maplewood? Do we want a community garden? A place for kids to play? Old folks to have a safe space? As more people rose to speak, ideas flowed with fervor. How about a co-op for local businesses? A library where everyone can learn together. monthly community events to unite us. The room erupted with energy, voices layering over one another, each idea igniting further inspiration. Laughter intertwined with hopeful shouts. For the first time, the boundaries between stranger and neighbor began to dissolve. They were dreamers, united by passion, daring to envision a better Maplewood. But just as hope blossomed, an unmistakable fear crept back in during a brief lull. What if these dreams fell apart before they even took root? Would the flame of newfound unity extinguish at the first sign of adversity? Sarah bit her lip, scanning the crowd, trying to gauge their energy. She took a deep breath. What if we face those fears? She proposed, her voice steady despite the turmoil within. What if we create safety nets for each other along the way? Transparency, communication, we could be stronger together. The applause that followed pulsed through the room, a thrilling rhythm that beckoned to be built upon. Sarah felt her pulse quicken. Could this truly be the turning point? In the surge of hopeful exchange, Mr. Thompson stepped closer to Sarah, an uneasy smile forming on his lips. What if we set the groundwork right here, tonight? Maybe we could create a committee to oversee this project, but it needs volunteers who believe in this vision. Just then, a voice cut through the excitement, low and determined. And what guarantees do we have that you will stick around when the going gets tough? As eyes turned once more, Sarah realized that the skepticism was still lurking, ready to pounce on their collective dream. It wasn't just about dreaming, it was about commitment, real commitment. How do we hold each other accountable, she thought, her mind racing. Would fear of the past stifle their courage, or could they transform that doubt into a stepping stone for their future? Do we have what it takes to keep this alive? She questioned, feeling the weight of their collective uncertainty. The tension in the room thickened, and Sarah sensed they were at a precipice. Would they embrace this shared dream, or would they let their fears hold them back once more? What would be the deciding factor that would tip them over the edge? The room felt heavy, a summer storm ready to unleash its fury. Sarah's heart pounded, the collective anxiety swirling around her like uncharted territory. She could hear the soft whispers of doubt in the corners of the space, the tension forged from years of broken promises. Taking a step closer, she tried to ground herself in the moment, her eyes scanning the faces, some familiar, others new, each mirroring the hope and fear bouncing through the air. Mr. Thompson cleared his throat, his voice slicing through the quiet. I believe in this town. But believing isn't enough. I need you all to trust that I mean what I say. His earnestness hung like a lifeline. One by one, eyes softened, and out of the thick tension bloomed tentative encouragement. A hand shot up, and the spirited spirit of the woman from the front rose again. What if we make it a rule to meet every week? Let us open the doors for community discussions. No more ghosts in the background. Just us. A ripple of acknowledgement spread, and Sarah felt hope flicker. As they exchanged glances, something electric started to weave through the crowd. Perhaps the seeds of trust were beginning to penetrate the soil of doubt. Count me in, the young man at the back called out, his voice steady. If we're doing this, I'm all for it. But it better not turn into another cluster of nothing. As laughter erupted, it broke down the walls a little more. With every shoulder that turned to face another, the room seemed to pulse with a newfound energy. All right then, let us divide and conquer. Sarah suggested, barely able to hide her excitement. Who wants to take on publicity? We need to get the word out. Hands reached up in volley, each person claiming a role, carving out a piece of this shared dream. With each task assigned, they slowly crafted a plan, sketching out blueprints for their future. Sarah sighed, relief washing over her as the conversation flowed and laughter echoed. They were forging connections, stitching each individual's voice into the fabric of the community. Halfway through this beautiful chaos, she turned to Mr. Thompson. You know, it feels like we're actually building something real. He met her gaze, the worry lines on his forehead softening as he spoke. Together, we can. But let's remember to keep the lines open. Transparency matters. As Sarah nodded, a thought cast a shadow over her optimism. Could they truly keep these lines open? Would this core stand the tests of struggle? Before she could voice the question chilling her spirit, a soft gasp broke the growing camaraderie. All eyes shifted as the woman from the front pointed toward the back of the room. Look! A man had walked in, cloaked in shadows, an air of quiet authority about him. He was older, with an unmistakable gravitas that drew attention. Whispers fluttered around the room, as speculative gazes followed him. Who was he? Was this stranger a part of the community, or had he wandered in from another world entirely? Mr. Thompson looked puzzled, even Sarah's heart raced with uncertainty. This was no ordinary visitor. Something about him felt significant, as if he were heralding something monumental, something that could change the course of their dreams. Who is that? Someone finally asked. The air in the room thickened yet again as the figure stepped forward, revealing a knowing smile that hinted at stories untold. Sarah's mind whirled. Was this man the missing piece they didn't know they needed? Her heart raced as she sensed an unsolved mystery in the air. Had their dreams just taken a more thrilling turn, or would it lead to an even deeper divide? The crowd remained silent, expectation crackling like static electricity. Would this man's arrival propel them forward or shatter what they'd just begun to build? The man stepped further into the room, and his presence seemed to draw a line in the air, separating comfort from uncertainty. He moved with a purpose, every step measured, causing Sarah's heart to race. That smile, it was both disarming and enigmatic. "Good evening, everyone," he said, his voice smooth as silk, rich with authority that commanded attention. "I'm James, and it seems I've found my way into an important meeting." Mr. Thompson nodded stiffly, his brows furrowed as he took in this unexpected visitor. "And you are?" "Just a concerned citizen," James replied, scanning the faces that turned towards him. "But I may be more invested in this community than you realize." "What does that mean?" someone from the crowd called out. Sarah felt the weight of their question, a collective curiosity bubbling beneath the surface. James chuckled softly, an easy laugh that somehow made the air around them crackle with intrigue. "I've been watching this town for quite some time, fascinated by its grit and spirit. But let us be honest, it could use a little spark, a push toward something greater." Sarah glanced at Mr. Thompson, who looked both intrigued and wary. Could this man be the very connection they needed to amplify their efforts? Or was he just another illusion luring them into uncertainty? What kind of push? Sarah's voice rang out, holding the room in a delicate balance of hope and skepticism. James' face lit up with a grin that suggested he had more to offer. Imagine unlocking funds, resources, and connections. Imagine transforming your plans from a dream into reality. He paused, letting his words linger as a palpable excitement spread through the room. A thrill raced through Sarah. They were at the brink of something significant. "Are you saying you can help us?" He nodded slowly, his eyes glimmering with promise. "I can't make any promises, but I can certainly facilitate introductions. There's a world out there waiting to invest in places like this if you dare to ask." Suddenly, a burst of chatter erupted. People leaned in, excitement igniting their previously waning hopes. Sarah felt the fierce potential of the moment. The idea that their dreams might not just survive but thrive began to take root in her chest. But just as quickly, her mind darted back to doubt. "And what's in it for you?" she asked, feeling the skepticism rise like smoke. "Why are you willing to help a small town?" He hesitated, his smile fading slightly. "Because sometimes you find your fortune in the most unexpected places. And perhaps, it's time I found mine right here." The air thickened again, almost tangibly, as whispers rippled through the gathering. Could this man be trusted? Or was he just another player in the game, ready to exit stage left the moment things got messy? Mr. Thompson took a step forward, his tone serious. "We appreciate your interest, James. But this town has seen its fair share of rain and shine. We build on transparency and trust. If you're here to help, then let us lay our cards on the table. James took a deep breath, the weight of the moment swelling between them. Then let me show you what it takes. I have resources that can turn the tide. But you must be ready to embrace uncertainty, to evolve. As tension simmered, Sarah's heart turned to a war of hope and caution. She wondered if this was the break they sought or a doorway to deeper conflict. Did they have the courage to leap? Just as she felt the crowd's energy swell, a voice echoed quietly from the back, filled with foreboding. And what if that leap leads us to a pitfall instead? Sarah's heartbeat quickened, uncertainty swirling once again. Was this chance an open door, or would it end in heartbreak? The air was electric with expectation as they stared at James, waiting for answers. Would he be the ally they hoped for, or the harbinger of chaos? In the heart of the crowded room, silence hung heavy as tension settled like a fog. Sarah held her breath, the question lingering in the air, a palpable weight resting on their shoulders. She could read the anxiety etched in the faces of her neighbors. Excitement or dread, everyone seemed to sway between both emotions, uncertain which would tip the scale. Finally, James broke the silence, his voice steady and unyielding. Every opportunity comes with risks. But isn't it worth considering what you stand to gain? His eyes sparkled with determination. I'm here not just to offer help but to challenge you to elevate your aspirations beyond your current boundaries. Mr. Thompson, ever the protector of the town's legacy, squinted at James. What do you want from us? We need clarity. Instead of responding directly, James stepped closer, his gaze shifting to the assemblage. I want to unlock the potential that lies dormant here. He gestured to the portraits lining the walls, relics of the town's glorious past. You have a history of resilience and unity. Let us leverage that to create a future worth believing in. A murmured whisper traveled through the crowd. Sarah could feel hearts pounding around her, anticipation brewing with each word. James inspired a flicker of hope, but it came with the flicker of fear, reminded again of their past failures. Why now? Sarah spoke up, her voice stronger this time. What makes you think we're worth investing in? A small smile broke on James's face. Because in every challenge, I see strength waiting to be ignited. You already have the passion. I want to help you harness that. But a voice interrupted from the back, a familiar one. Emily, the quiet receptionist from the town hall, raised her hand hesitantly. What if the people you bring in only want to profit off our struggles? The crowd turned toward her, surprise painted across their faces. Emily had always been in the background, never one to lead discussions. The tension in the room shifted, all eyes on her. And in that crucial moment, her heart raced, not from fear, but from a sense of empowerment. James looked at her thoughtfully. That's a fair point, Emily. The truth is, some will come for profit, but others will come to invest in your vision. It's about discerning who genuinely wants to see this town thrive. He locked eyes with Emily, holding her gaze. It's about building relationships based on trust. That's where transparency comes into play. If you're all in this together, then you'll know who's worth your time and who's not. Sarah felt a spark within her. If this was the moment they could finally break free from the cycle of doubt, why not take a chance? What if we scheduled a meeting to hear his ideas? Just to explore possibilities? Her voice gained momentum. The crowd buzzed at her suggestion, weighing it against their desires. What if this time was different? James leaned in, his encouraging demeanor providing the push they desperately needed. As arguments faded into murmurs of agreement, Sarah felt her heart swell. They were on the verge of a decision, one that could alter their fate. But in that moment of hope, a creeping dread lingered. What would happen if they trusted the wrong person again? Suddenly, a loud crash like thunder echoed from outside, shattering the tense atmosphere. All heads snapped toward the windows, where a wave of storm clouds rolled ominously overhead. Just as quickly, James' expression hardened, and he glanced outside. "We need to act now," he pressed. "Time may not be on our side." The room was alive with mixed feelings of excitement and apprehension. Just as they contemplated their next steps, a chilling realization washed over Sarah. Could they survive the storm, both outside and within themselves, and truly grasp the opportunity ahead? As lightning flickered, illuminating James's enigmatic expression, Sarah felt the full weight of the moment. Everything began to swirl, and she whispered, "This is it, or maybe it's the beginning of the end." What would they decide when the storm broke? The wind howled outside, rattling the windows, and Sarah felt her heart race. Without a second thought, she turned towards the man at the front of the room. James stood tall, unwavering, even as the storm threatened to unleash its fury upon them. "James!" she called out, pushing through the noise of the crowd. "You said you believe in us. But what if the storm isn't just outside? What if it's within our hearts? How do we even begin to trust again?" His gaze softened as he regarded her. "Trust is built day by day, Sarah. It starts with a choice to take the first step together." Around them, people were stirring. Shadows of doubt crept back into their minds like the impending darkness outside. They whispered among themselves, glancing at the windows, at the growing storm. It felt like fear and hope were battling it out. The room was a battlefield of human emotions. "I don't want to be scammed again," Mrs. Collins chimed in, her voice carrying the weight of past disappointments. "We lost so much the last time someone promised us the world." James nodded. "I get it. You've been hurt, but this is different. It's about empowerment, not profit." He spread his arms wide, as if embracing everyone in the room. "This isn't just about investment, it's about connection. It's about coming together to redefine your narrative." The murmur grew, some were swayed, but the tension remained thick as molasses. The storm roared, and the lights flickered for a moment. A few faces were hardened with skepticism, yet Sarah noticed Emily again, standing slightly apart from the rest, as if summoning her courage. She stepped forward, voice resolute. "What if we set boundaries? What if we ensured this community has a say in everything? Can we do that?" "Yes." The word burst forth from Sarah's lips, surprising even her. "We can have our own rules and make sure we know who's with us and who's not." James nodded fervently. "This is what it means to be a community, a family. We will build something together, but it requires dialogue and cooperation. Can you commit to that?" Eyes met, and for a moment, hope mingled with uncertainty. James was saying the right things, yet the scars of the past weighed heavily. But after some silence, Sarah decided. "Let us schedule that meeting. A town hall with James, where we can all bring our concerns." Excitement flickered into life across the faces of her neighbors, but then the wind howled louder outside, drowning out their voices. The storm seemed to symbolize everything they were feeling: chaotic, threatening, and yet charged with possibilities. "I'll call for it," James promised, energized by their shift in mood. "And I'll be here every step of the way." But before they could respond to him, a loud crash echoed again, this time accompanied by what sounded like splintering wood from a nearby tree. Panic spread through the crowd, and Sarah felt her stomach drop. "Everyone, please!" James shouted over the rising panic. "Stay calm. Focus on what we can control, not the storm. We must make this choice for ourselves before it's too late." Sarah's heart was pounding. Would they rise to the occasion or let fear drown their potential? Just then, the power went out, plunging the room into darkness. Murmurs of fear rippled through the crowd. Hearts raced, but amidst the chaos, something quietly ignited in Sarah. In the depth of darkness, she realized sometimes, illumination comes from within, not from the light. Then a thought struck her like lightning. What if the dark hides something we've yet to discover? Curiosity mingled with anxiety, and she whispered to herself, knowing full well that she and her community were at a crossroads. What might arise from this turmoil? What truths lay hidden in the shadows, waiting to be unveiled? As her heart raced, Sarah clutched her own resolve, determined to uncover what lay ahead. What would she reveal when the lights came back on? The darkness pressed in on them, thick and stifling, as if it were alive with whispers of doubt and fear. Sarah could barely see her neighbors, their faces only shadows etched against the dim light filtering in through the cracks in the boarded-up windows. It felt as if time had stopped, suspending them in a moment of uncertainty, yet somehow, an electric tension surged in the air. "Stay close!" She shouted into the black, her voice trembling but loaded with determination. She could feel the warmth of her neighbor's hand grasping her own, a small comfort in the enveloping fear. Each heartbeat echoed loudly in her ears, a reminder of their shared humanity, their shared struggle against the storm outside and the storm within. "Does anyone have a flashlight?" came a voice from the back. The desperate tone pierced through the anxiety thickening the air. "I do," Emily said. "I keep one in my bag." There was a shuffle, and the crowd turned toward her, hopeful. Within moments, Emily's cell phone flickered to life, casting a pale light over their gathering. Faces illuminated in yellow and blue shades, they revealed a mix of fear, anticipation, and a shared desire to push through. "Okay, let us move to the front," Sarah urged, encouraging the crowd to gather closer. When they clustered together, Sarah could see the defiance starting to burn in their eyes. It might have been the darkness or perhaps something deeper, a flicker of determination rising against the odds. "James," Sarah called out, catching his gaze in the dimness. "What should we do now? We can't just sit here and wait for the power to come back, right?" He nodded, his face set. "No, we can't. This darkness can be our chance to confront our fears, to be honest about what we want as a community. We are more powerful together than either light or dark. Let us share what we've been through and what we truly desire." One by one, voices began to emerge from the crowd. Each story opened a little window into the hearts of her neighbors, revealing fears of betrayal, loss, and uncertainty. Mrs. Collins spoke of her shattered dreams, how trust had been a fragile fabric in her life, and how the snapping of that thread left her in tatters. Another neighbor, Dan, described losing the family business, scared that he'd never find a way back to happiness. "I fear that we've lost our way," Dan said, his voice shaky. "But I want to rebuild. Together." "Me too," someone shouted from the side. More joined in, and before long, a chorus of affirmations filled the room, each voice lending strength to the other. "I want to stand up for what we believe in," Sarah shouted, feeding off the energy. "If we trust each other, we can weather any storm." Boosted by that energy, a strange sensation washed over Sarah. She felt not just the weight of her fears but the strength of their unity. As the stories flowed, so did their determination. This was more than just about the storm outside. It was about an awakening, a rising to meet their shared truth. The room grew warmer, charged with possibility, no longer just a gathering caught in the dark but a community standing tall against adversity. And then, with a loud crash, the lights flickered back on. The sudden brightness flooded the space, revealing faces tear-streaked but radiant with hope. But just as the laughter began to bubble among them, a figure from the shadows emerged. "Who are you?" Sarah asked, narrowing her eyes. The figure stepped forward, a familiar smile on his face. But something about him seemed different, as if he carried a secret heavier than the storm. "Maybe it's time I finally introduce myself." Sarah's heart raced again, the tension crackling anew. What revelation was he about to share, and how would it alter the very future they were trying to build? The room was alive with curiosity as the figure emerged from the shadows, a familiar yet unexpected presence among them. Sarah squinted against the bright lights and took a step forward, a mix of anticipation and alarm swirling in her chest. "Mr. Thompson?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. He grinned, and for a brief moment, there was a spark of relief that danced across his features. But it was quickly replaced with an intensity that drew the attention of every person in the room. "Yes, it's me," he began slowly, as if choosing his words with utmost care. "But you may not see me in the same light after what I'm about to say." Tension thickened in the air. Everyone leaned in closer, emotions conflicting like the howling winds outside. Sarah felt the pulse of the crowd, their hearts racing in unison, and her breath caught in her throat as she silently pleaded for clarity. "I've been a benefactor to this community for a long time," he admitted, his tone somber. "But what I haven't shared is why." Taking a deep breath, he continued, "I grew up in a town just like Maplewood, hard-working families struggling to stay afloat. Just like many of you, I faced loss that rocked my world. After my family passed, I vowed to help communities like this one." Whispers erupted among the spectators, confusion tinged with a hint of nostalgia. "But why keep it a secret?" someone shouted from the back. A flicker of understanding crossed Mr. Thompson's face. "Because I feared judgment. I felt that if I revealed my wealth, I would be seen as the enemy. I didn't want to add to the pain you were already feeling. I wanted to help quietly." Sarah felt a wave of emotion surge as she connected the dots. This man was not just a patron, he was a fellow soul who shared their struggles. The room began to shift again, the weight of skepticism moving aside to make space for something beautiful: shared experience. "Mr. Thompson," Sarah said, her words solidifying in her heart. "We've all been afraid. We've been grappling with loss, judgment, and fear. But maybe now, together, we can redefine what it means to belong, to trust, and to hope." As the crowd murmured their agreement, Sarah saw the realization as if a light had turned on inside each of them. They were not alone anymore. They were all threaded together by pain and possibility. "Let us create a foundation for transparency," she continued boldly. "For open dialogue, shared experiences, and collective dreams. You, Mr. Thompson, have already ignited the flame of trust. Let us keep that fire burning." A ripple of applause surged through the crowd as they cheered for unity, their resolve growing stronger. Driven by this newfound connection, one by one, they began to speak, sharing their dreams for the future, casting visions for a new Maplewood filled with hope, support, and collaboration. Each story flowed into the next, building an unstoppable momentum. Sarah felt a sense of peace and pride wash over her. They were transforming doubt into determination, rebuilding not just a community, but a family. And as the chatter enveloped her like a warm embrace, Sarah looked over at Mr. Thompson, his eyes shining with gratitude. He, too, had become part of their fabric. After hours of discussion, the meeting drew to a close. They were all a mix of excited and weary, but a good weary one filled with purpose. Together, they deconstructed a path forward, a foundation of trust that would guide them through whatever storms awaited. As everyone filed out, exchanging hugs and laughter in the newly brightened room, Sarah turned to Mr. Thompson. "You belong here, you know." He smiled softly, relief settling into his features. "I think I've finally found my family," he replied, the sincerity in his voice wrapping around her heart like a warm embrace. In that moment, Sarah realized just how far Maplewood had come. They had faced their fears head-on and turned them into unyielding hope. Together, they were now ready to take on whatever challenges lay ahead, forging a brighter future woven with trust, compassion, and unwavering camaraderie. And as she stepped out into the cooling night, the storm had passed, leaving behind a sky painted with stars, a testament to their resilience and rebirth. Sarah's heart swelled with pride. This was just the beginning now, dear viewers, this is your chance. You need to subscribe now to our channel and not miss any of these incredible transformative stories. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait not even one more second to share it with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Leave a like now, and let me know your reactions in the comments. Together, let's keep this community growing strong.